Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Heyer with Triple Real Estate. Today, I'm joined by the lovely and brilliant Rosalind Kwast of Kwast Law.
Thank you. Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
So, we just wanted to take the opportunity to discuss some things that might be on the minds of clients, either existing or future clients.
Yeah.
We've heard the term unprecedented times thrown around ad nauseum, but it really is true. These are very, very unique situations with very, very unique problems and solutions. So, Roz, why don't you just talk a little bit about kind of what you're seeing in the marketplace right now
Absolutely.
for existing deals?
So, for existing deals, obviously, this change and what's been going on with the pandemic has caused a lot of fear in a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers. Sellers want to close quickly, and buyers are trying to sometimes delay or ask for concessions, credits, some even trying to get out of a contract. The most important thing to know for everyone in general is pre-pandemic, there are no force majeure contracts. Just in general, these provisions are not standard in residential contracts. They typically were never requested, never asked for. So one thing is for certain that is for buyers is they can't just get out of a contract. If they try to get out of a contract and not close and just walk away, they risk losing their deposit. So pre-pandemic, a lot of people who are in the position to close, such as a buyer being board approved and funding approved, the incentive for a lot of the buyers is to get, to get credits from the sellers to close. So you can't really ask for this kind of renegotiation until you're at the phase where you can tell a seller, listen, I'm ready, willing, and able, but in order to do so, can you give me some sort of credit, some sort of deal? So that is happening in a lot of the current transactions. Not everyone is doing that. I definitely have clients who don't really want to ask for a credit. They really just want to close as well. And so some people are not affected by the pandemic, but others definitely are.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what percentage of the deals are you seeing where renegotiation is happening without the protections previously put in? So deals that
Yeah.
pre-pandemic, how much are you seeing trying to be renegotiated without really a leg to stand on?
Yes. I would say about 25 to 30%.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
kind
It's
of
a decent amount. Yeah, it's a decent amount. And some people, they don't even want to renegotiate. They just want to delay as long as they can. They're not interested in the credit. They just want to get their thoughts together and deal with closing at a later time. It's not going to change their situation, but for whatever reason, it gives them peace of mind to delay closing.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's just because they're waiting to see how their financial picture is
Yeah.
post
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah. And it's for people who are closing cash and people with financing. But I will say those who are uh, closing with financing really need to be careful because they might have received their commitment letter, which means that the contingency is met if they have a contingent transaction or non-contingent. So once you receive your commitment letter, your contingency is deemed waived, which means anything that happens between receipt of a commitment and actual closing is on you personally. So if you lose your job or the lender has to repull credit, or maybe they have to get a new appraisal done and completed, you run the risk of becoming unfinanceable between receive your commitment through closing. And therefore, if you really delay too long, you put your deposit at jeopardy, really. So I would always tell a buyer just to make sure you have a real conversation, a candid conversation with your lender, and have an open line of communication that there's not going to be an issue for you if you do try to delay. People who are closing cash, obviously they don't have that problem. They do need to check to see where their cash is, if it's stuck in the markets, if they've been affected by everything. That might affect when they want to close. They might want to wait, or they might want to just, go ahead and close as soon as possible. There are definitely more protections and clauses being thrown around, specifically that really benefit the purchaser. Sellers also benefit a little bit, but for the most part, a buyer's counsel, I've seen this 100% of the time have asked for additional protections, whether or not there's financing involved. So with financing specifically, a lot of attorneys are asking for full funding contingencies. So such as protection against failure to fund due to COVID-19, due to loss of job, or maybe even a pay cut above 30%, or failure to fund because the lender just stops lending. So that's something that was never seen before. A lot of these personal funding contingencies for helping a buyer against loss of job, that was never something that was standard. So a lot of people are requesting these. The other thing that I've seen with provisions that are being accepted by sellers is an accommodation that if a closing can't close in person, both parties agree to accommodate an escrow or remote closing so long as a lender can accommodate. And if the lender can't accommodate, then the closing is just delayed in general until they can.
Okay.
Without financing contingencies, or just in general with both types of transactions, there is a general extension of deadlines. So the provision that I'm seeing is that if a buyer is hindered from any obligation under the contract, such as the performance of submitting a board package or receipt of a commitment, that performance of the act is excused for the duration of the issue until the matter at hand, the obligation, can be performed. So the thing that I just mentioned with those provisions is they don't have a specific deadline. So depending on who you're dealing with, some attorneys add a specific deadline. So then I've also seen that kind of provision, but then given a specific time frame that the obligation shall be extended. So for instance, those obligations can be extended for 30 days after the COVID issue has passed, or maybe 30 days from when the issue is alerted as a potential blockage to getting a performance of an act done. Some people also have a end date for performance. So if it goes beyond, let's just say 3 to 6 months, then both parties still have to move forward, or one party can cancel. So I have seen cancellation rights trying to be added into these contracts so that you're not constantly in limbo for months and months and months. That's kind of what I've been seeing most of the time. There are some unique ones that I've encountered that I've seen maybe once in a while. So there's a specific provision to help a seller this time where they add a clause saying that, the buyer will not agree to additional credits after the contract is signed due to any COVID-19 related issues. And I think it's a really smart provision because you don't want to enter into a contract at a lower price than you wanted to. And then a few months down the road, a buyer still tries to use COVID-19 to get some sort of credit or concession. So you can add that now to protect a seller from getting any more price reductions. New York is the only state where an escrow closing or remote closing is not the standard. Every other state it is, which makes it so difficult to coordinate currently. So I don't think it's going to be moving toward that standard, I think, for a while until this pandemic has cleared out a little bit or there's some sort of vaccine. Maybe for, even a few months, maybe half a year, people are going to try to still handle things remotely, but eventually it's going to go back to how it used to be, just unless there are changes within the government and how they deal with closings. Really, it's very difficult to change that process. Most of it is on the banking end. A lot of banks, even now during the pandemic, are unable to accommodate remote or escrow closings. They actually do require someone to be present in person with the buyer to execute documents, and those documents have to be dated the same day as closing and funded the same day. So it's just so difficult. If they're not changing it now during a pandemic, I don't think that they will post-pandemic. So I don't see that changing. I think in specifics with regard to real estate in general, I think that buildings might start to rethink how they build their common areas so they have more space. Managing agents might be willing to accommodate bigger conference rooms for closings because surprisingly, a lot of them are able to accommodate these remote closings. They're doing it really well. They're acting as escrow agents, and that's been maybe something that can move forward. Yeah, so if you are looking to buy something, make sure that you have a really candid conversation with your attorney and your lender to see what they can add to suit your situation. So, for instance, if you really love, a new development and you know it's built up already and you want to take a look at the unit, but you can't, ask your attorney to add an inspection contingency, so that you can sign in, lock into this contract because you really want the unit, but you still have the ability to inspect after you enter into contract. So you just want to think of unique ways that your team can accommodate your situation.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, Roz, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was very helpful for anyone that watches.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time as always, and we will talk soon.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.